Hi, Mary Scifres here for Mary Scifres Ministries to talk to you today about why I don't care about church growth. I care about love growth. Now, this might surprise you since many of you know me as a church growth specialist. I am a church growth consultant and I work with hundreds of churches all over the country, helping them grow their church. Even so, I gotta tell you, I do not care about church growth when it means numbers. This is the primary reason I don't care about church growth. When people focus on numbers, we can get distracted and forget to focus on what's most important, the people who represent those numbers. We are not called to increase in numbers. We're called to increase in love. After all, our primary purpose in the church is to live out Jesus' great commandment, to love God and to love neighbor as we love ourselves. This is a directive that's all about people and all about God, about growing love of people, love of God, even growing love of ourselves. This cannot be measured in numbers, but I will tell you that when we get focused on our primary purpose, to love God, love neighbor, and love ourselves, our numbers will probably increase. But even so, I do not care about church growth if it's all about numbers. I also don't care about church growth when it's about self-judgment. So many of my clients worry about worship attendance from one week to the next. Was last week's sermon not good enough? Ooh, maybe we're using the wrong musical style. Maybe I made somebody angry at church council. No, church growth should not be about self-judgment. Church growth should be about being strong and courageous, to love people so fully that they want to be in our worshiping community, to love God so deeply that you want to worship because you're around people who love God deeply. Otherwise, we can be like that poor talent person in the parable of the talents who only had the one talent and was so afraid, so full of self-judgment that that person went and buried their one talent. If we start worrying about numbers and judging ourselves from week to week or comparing ourselves against other churches, we run the risk of burying the gifts we have. God wants us to be faithful and trusting in the God who loves us so much that God wants the best for us, whether we've got one talent and one worshiper, or 5 talents and 500 worshipers, or 10 talents and 1,000 worshipers. God just wants us to know we are created, as long as we're giving our best to God, it's enough. So I don't care about church growth if it means self-judgment. I also do not care about church growth when it comes as a pressure from outside forces. If you're feeling the pressure from supervisors in your local church, or supervisors in your denomination, or even neighboring pastors to reach a certain number or to grow a certain percentage, just stop. That's what Jesus freed us from when Jesus said to the Pharisees, "You brood of vipers, don't. You imprison people with your worrying about righteousness of the law." We are here about righteousness of love. That's Jesus' only rule. If you and your church are loving well, that is growth enough. And it's the only growth I care about, growing love. So yes, I help people grow churches by helping people grow love. And nothing will grow your church faster than growing a community of love. So grow in love. Grow in love of God. Grow in love of neighbor. Grow in love of self. And your church will probably grow even in numbers. But I don't care about that church growth, because numbers, they don't matter unless they are numbers of love. So grow your church by growing love, because I don't care about church growth. I care about love growth. If you want to know more about how to grow a community of love, join me in October for Growing Communities of Love, a live event at the Disney Embassy Suites in Anaheim this fall, October 23 through 25. In the meantime, join me in not worrying about church growth. Let's instead focus on love growth, for that's all that Jesus ever asked of us.